What's up guys, I'm Luke and this is the SubaruONLY channel and you're watching the SubaruONLY show. Today I got some cool stuff for you guys. I think you're gonna be super stoked. Let's check it out. Okay, what are we talking about doing today? I'll show you what I'm doing today. Sorry, I'm just holding my phone freestyle today. It's gonna be kind of freestyle a little bit and I'll show you why. So what are we doing today? Today we're gonna do a shop update. Shop update. That's what we're doing today. I got some super cool shit I'm gonna show you guys. I think you're gonna be stoked, and it's all gonna be to make these videos a lot cooler. So you're gonna be stoked on that. It's awesome. Second thing is gonna be the 98 GC Coupe. 98 GC Coupe. I'm gonna give a little intro to that sucker. I'm gonna walk you guys through what the plan is for that car, because I know a lot of you have been dying to see what it is, and I'm dying to get into it. I'm about to because I just finished my last build, and as a matter of fact, that's gonna be number 3. Where's the marker? The 04 Forester XT. Number 3 is the 04 Forester XT. I'm gonna give you an overview of what I've been doing on that car. Maybe not an in-depth interview to it, but I'm gonna walk you through what I did do recently and what I got coming up in the near future, like within a week. And then, what the hell while we're at it for? Let's try to see. Okay, number 4 if we have time, because the sun's about to go down, show you the other 2 Subarus I got. I got a 93 Legacy, and I got a 94 Impreza 4-door GF body. Pretty sweet. So I got 4 Subarus and my tow rig. It's a little nutty. Let's do this shit. Number 1, the shop update. Let's check this out. Take you inside for that. All right, let's check this out. What do we got going on in the shop? Well, what I got going on in the shop is a little HD cam hooked up on this adjustable arm that actually connects to a light. If I can find where the switch is. Boom. That's kind of the setup. I don't know if I need that light, but if I need it, that's where it's at. And it's gonna be an HD cam. And I kind of got it set up on the computer. I'll show you what this is. This is kind of an interesting thing. The Stream Deck. And I got another camera over here set up for this. Right here. That's my dog Bailey. What's up, Bailey? So I got this camera. This camera is looking at the car. And I'm thinking about investing in more cameras because this is a pretty sick setup. I can actually have multiple cameras going and flip between the cameras using that little control panel and maybe outfit this whole shop with a bunch of cameras. McCray, the man, doing his thing. So anyways, like I was saying, outfit this shop with a bunch of cameras and do some live streams from the shop. I think I can actually go ahead and I'm going to do a little dry run with this video feed and show you guys what it looks like. And we're in the shop. Bam! Using HD cam. Pretty cool, right? And I can flip to the other cam. Boom! What's up? Now we're outside. I can pop the hood. You guys can kind of see a little bit about how this is going to go. At the flip of a switch, flip back inside. Boom! Now I'm back on the inside camera. I'm thinking about adding a couple more cameras. That way I can go from these wide angle views to maybe a camera that's looking at the whiteboard to maybe a camera that's right over the engine bay. To God knows how many cameras I could do. Tell me that wasn't cool. Tell me if I add a couple more cameras that's not going to be super fucking cool. I think so. These little cameras are dope. I'm going to flip around and check it out right there. Yeah, that's what it was. Anyways, what do we got next on the list? SubaruONLY parking, bro. 98 GC Coupe. Let's do a little intro of this thing. What are we looking at here? I already popped the hood. It is a coupe. It's 98. It's got an 05 WRX driveline, engine, transmission, rear end, and axles. It's got the Bride replica seats. It's got a full stripped interior. It's got a roll cage. It's a bolt-in roll cage, but I took that sucker out. We're gonna open this thing up, get it inside. So, what do we got here? We got an it looks like we got the 05 steering wheel, but we do have the 98 interior, stripped out interior dash. I love this guy. The guy I bought the car from is a hockey fan from the I think Northeast or something like that, and he adapted a hockey stick as a shifter. I don't know. It's pretty fucking awesome, actually. It's a little crazy. It's a little awesome. It actually feels pretty good. You got the brake right there, and then we got the Bride rep seats. And right now they're sitting a little low because I unbolted them. And I can take them out because I'm cleaning out the interior, cleaning out the whole car. The car was stripped as I got it, but it was dirty as a mofo. So I unbolted the seats, but it's got the bride rep seats, and it's actually got, like I was saying, a full roll cage that bolts in. I don't know if you see the bolt holes are right there, but basically it's got a roll cage that bolts in. And the plan is I'm going to get that roll cage powder coated. I'm going to clean up the interior a little bit. I'm going to pull that 05 engine and do a head gasket job on it, and maybe do a few other things to that engine. But definitely do the head gasket first, because it's got a blown head gasket. Probably run it through its paces, run it hard for a month or so, and then do some bolt-ons, put a tune on it, and go from there. But this sucker is going to be a serious contender. At some point, I'll probably have to end up rebuilding the short block and go with an all-fours rotating assembly. But we'll talk about that at a later time. So for right now, the GC Coupe is just going to get the engine pulled, the head gasket done, and have that stock 05 WX motor putting out whatever stock horsepower it puts out. And then after about 3 or 4 weeks of running it hard, I'll probably bolt on a bunch of stuff, put a stage 2 tune on it, whatever the hell stage 2 means. I just run number boost. You know, probably put 16 to 18 pounds of boost to it, and then go from there and start racing it. So let's see. Eventually, I'd like to take this car, run it on alcohol, E85, and hit the high 30s in boost. Basically, I don't know, bump it up to low 20s, go in incremental stages, but someday this is going to have an engine running high boost on E85. That's the long-term plan. And I'll still take it to the office. That's also the plan. What horsepower it makes doesn't really matter to me. It'll make a lot of horsepower if you're running 30 or 40 pounds of boost. The 40 is a little exaggerated. It'll make a lot of fucking power if you're running mid 30s to high 30s boost on E85 on this engine if it's running efficiently. And that's what it's going to be if I take it to a good tuner. So that's 98 GC Coupe. All right, what's next on the list? 04 Forester XT. Let's go check that out. All right, I'm going through the side door because the garage door is closed. We can't get in that way. I should have opened it before I started filming, but I didn't. The light's so good right now, I just wanted to start filming and get this thing done. Get in here, doggy. Get in, get in, get in. Alright. Alright, I don't know how good this is going to come in, but here's the Forester. Okay, the 04 Forester. Let's check this thing out. This thing's pretty badass. Look at this thing. Love it. Okay, for those of you guys who don't know, I bought this car about 3 or 4 months ago, had a blown head gasket. I pulled the head gasket, replaced it, put it all back together, I used Subaru OEM multi-layer head gaskets, put it all back together, ran it through its paces, actually took it to a rallycross event, and beat it pretty hard at the rallycross event, just to make sure it didn't have any leaks, didn't have any issues. It didn't, it ran great. As a matter of fact, it killed it. Okay, so that aside. So what did I do? I replaced the turbo with a VF48 turbo from 2014 STI. A low mileage turbo, about 28,000 miles on it. The intercooler is from a 2016 or 2017 STI, also low mileage. And from what I've heard from tuners, works really well with that VF48 turbo. Now I replaced the turbo inlet with a Perrin silicone turbo inlet. I pulled the intake manifold and I painted it with a crinkle red paint coat, with a crinkle red high temperature paint. Right here, I put an air oil separator on. Actually, I shouldn't say an air oil separator because people get confused by that. It's actually a baffled catch can. So it's not a traditional, it's not an air oil separator from what most people consider an air oil separator. Then I went with a stock intake, although I have an aftermarket intake. I really like how the stock intake was super rigid and tight in there. So when I take this rally crossing, I'm going to be going over huge bumps, maybe a little bit of air, a little bit from hitting a bump or a berm, and I want that intake to stay on real firm. So I like this intake. What else? The turbo intercooler, the intake, the air intake, turbo intake. Let's see, if I get in here a little deeper, I don't think you can probably see it, but I actually have that Grimspeed divorced limited edition downpipe. And right there is a bung for a wideband O2 sensor, and I'm actually going to be installing a wideband O2 sensor in this sucker in the next few days, and that will be one of the next videos I make. I'll do an unboxing video, and then I'll do a video on installing it and get that gauge working. It's a pretty cool little setup, actually. So there's the Forester, the 04 Forester XT. And the one thing that most people frown upon, an automatic transmission. an automatic transmission that I would agree is not preferable by most people's standards. However, here's the thing with an automatic transmission, and for me, with all my other cars being manuals, and as a matter of fact, every car I've owned for the last 18 or 20 years has been a manual transmission car. So for me, this is a pretty cool novelty, and I have 3 other Subarus that are all manual transmission, and it's kind of fun to have an automatic transmission. But that aside, for me, it's a novelty. That aside, here's my logic with an automatic transmission. I think that if you find an automatic transmission car, like a turbocharged Forester that was owned by an older driver, and driven by a mature driver, and that's more likely you're going to find one with an automatic transmission, and that engine and that turbo and that driveline have been less abused than one with a manual transmission. And I would argue that a lot of the time, an automatic transmission higher mileage car probably has better lower engine bearings and rod bearings and turbo bearings than the equivalent car with the same mileage if it was a manual transmission. Almost every time, because it's so much more fun to drive a manual transmission with a little bit more RPM and putting a little bit more load through that engine. And because of that, that engine is almost always going to get beat up and used up a little bit more than the same engine with an automatic transmission behind it. But that's just my theory. I got no proof for that. That's just what I think. As soon as I decide to, or have the money to, or end up messing up this automatic transmission, it's pretty likely that the next step for it will be one of those JDM 6-speeds for it. Yeah, that's what you do. Because here's the other thing I'll tell you. The automatic Foresters go for quite a bit cheaper than the manual transmission Foresters. So you get an automatic Forester for like $2,000 or $3,000 less than the same one that's in a manual transmission. You get one that's in better condition. You get one that has better turbo, better lower engine bearings, better transmission, better differential. Well, the transmission automatic. And then you drive it hard, or you swap it for a JDM 6-speed or 5-speed, and you do that for $2 or $3 grand, and there you are, you're right back at the same price that you would have spent for the car if it had a manual transmission, but you have an engine and a rear end and a turbo that's in much better condition than the one that had a manual transmission its whole life. So that's my logic on these cars where the engine's dope, but it has an automatic transmission. Buy it. If it's $2 or $3 grand less than an equivalent car with a manual transmission, get the automatic every time, get a car in better condition, and then throw a manual transmission in there, especially if you can get a JDM one like these. So anyways, let's go on to the next car real fast. Okay, we got some good light. It's a little hazy. It's sunset here in Northern California. I always forget to say that. We're here in Northern California, in the city of Concord, in the Bay Area, USA. The 94 GF Impreza. It's a 4-door. I'm going to show you a little closer here. It's got the hood scoop. It's got the air vents. It's got the 3D grill, or the facelift grill, some people call it. It's got the JDM logo, and that is a real JDM logo. And it's got the STi JDM bumper. I think it's a version 4 STi bumper. Got that from a Subaru dealer that had a bunch of new old stock available. And let's see what else. It's got some pretty cool wheels. I think these are 05, 06 WRX wheels, or the bronze 5-spoke. And it's got the BF Goodrich. What do we got on here? G-Force Comp 2As. And they got these little knobs on the outside, and they look pretty badass, and they work great. Is this thing locked? So we'll go inside real fast. Okay, what are we looking at here? I got my 5-speed. I got the round black ball shifter, which I love. I've kind of had that in all my race cars. Doesn't matter what make, for my whole life. And let's see, how many miles we got on this thing? Can't see. There you go. 221,000 miles. Now, I've driven this thing cross country a couple times, or at least from Denver to California, and it's champ. I've slept in it several times. I love it. It's an awesome car. Originally from Colorado. Hails from Burt in Englewood, Colorado, which is right outside Denver. So that's a 94 Impreza, and I actually have a little wing that I had painted, a factory like top spoiler that I had painted to match. I just never installed it. I got upgraded brakes on the front and the back, and this car is going to be the one that's getting that JDM motor in. That JDM motor is an EJ20G motor that I've been hanging on to forever because I want to do a bunch of videos on it, and because I don't have the fucking wiring figured out on it. It basically needs to be a kind of a tricky merge with a bunch of shit that's already cut, or I gotta just send it all to iWire, which I think is the next plan. It just needs to go to eyewear. But this is a beautiful motor that I built. Actually, I replaced the bearings on this one, replaced the rings on it, and what else did I do this thing? I put ARP head studs in it, of course some multi-layer gaskets, and a bunch of other stuff. Stock compression, stock motor otherwise. Was planning on running the stock ECU, which was an ECU from a 96 JDM STi manual transmission car. So the EJ20G motor is going into Impreza. The 93 Legacy is the next one. This car is awesome. It's also a 5-speed, but it's a front-wheel drive 5-speed. And the thing about a front-wheel drive 5-speed is A, it allows you to run in front-wheel drive classes, which there aren't a lot of Subarus in, and it actually makes the car a little bit lighter. So this 5-speed Legacy is quite a bit lighter than automatic, and it's quite a bit light, and it's about 100 or 200 pounds lighter than the equivalent all-wheel drive 5-speed, which is pretty cool. I think this thing weighs in at about 2,700 pounds. 2,700, maybe 2,790. So that's a quick little intro to the Legacy. We'll get into more depth about the plan on that car and what I use it for. A lot of times actually my daily driver. I'll tell you the whole story about how I bought that car for 500 bucks. The guy was asking 1,200. I walked away from the guy for 500. And that was the best little deal I ever got. And I've driven that thing for about 2.5, 3 years. Tons of times to the work, to the job site. Thinking about putting a SVX EJ33 motor, the 6-cylinder motor from the SVX in this thing. And maybe even keeping the front-wheel drive. Make it a front-wheel drive, but get a limited slip front diff. And make it a front-wheel drive with a 6-cylinder Subaru motor. And with that limited slip front, this thing is just going to kill it in the front-wheel drive classes. But that's another story. So we're back to the shop. My UTI diploma. King Baby Studio. I did a lot of welding for them. It's a whole story. Look them up. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. This is the Subaru Only Show.